Hello and welcome to another tutorial video by me, LeeBB Art. In this video we're going to be painting this snowy mountain scene right here. It looks complicated but it's really simple really, the techniques that we're going to use. We're only going to use 3 colours as well, and they'll be listed on the next screen with all the other supplies that you need. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like and comment in the sections below any questions you may have or any thoughts you may have, and please give my channel a subscribe. Thank you. Enjoy. First of all, tape your paper down to your table or board that you use to paint on, and then we'll start by sketching just a faint outline of the peak of a mountain. It can be any shape that you like, doesn't have to be exactly the same shape as this one that I'm drawing. Just make sure it's got enough interest with different rocks pointing up and out of the mountain and some curvy cliffs. Make sure that you put some cliff faces on that swoop down at the one side. This mountain that I'm drawing in the background here is in the distance, so just a faint outline, and then we'll start adding the first wash for the sky. So cover the whole area of the sky around the tip of the mountain with fresh clean water. I'm using a flat brush to do this because it allows me to get nice and neat edges around the drawing of the mountain. Next we will use some Prussian blue for the sky. I think this is a perfect colour for a sky, especially high up in the mountains where the air is a lot clearer. Just get a round brush and start swiping back and forth in the direction, not completely covering the whole of the area because we want to have the effect of clouds within the sky. So add some dollops of blue, some nice deep colours there, and then keep wiping. If you start to see any runs in the paint, just gently brush over those to clear those out of the way. Next, get some kitchen tissue paper and scrunch it up so you get kind of a ruffled edge. Then gently dab around the edges of the white that we left with the sky, and this will help produce some interesting shapes for the top of clouds. Gently do this, remember not to take too much paint off because you still want a bit of blue there. With the paper it's always best to keep changing its shape, otherwise if you keep dabbing with the same scrunch that you've made, it will repeat the pattern rather than have a more natural flow. Once the sky is dried, we can then move on to painting the rocks on the mountain face. To do this we will use Payne's Grey, and you can use the tip of a round brush and just gently mark dots to create rocks in the distance, and then for quickness you can hold the brush at an angle and gently pull down with the brush to create the dry brush effect, and this will create the appearance of rocks. It's always good to start with a light value of the Payne's Grey, and then as you progress with the painting you can go back over those lighter values with some darker tones. When painting the rocks on the mountains, remember to leave some white space because we want to have the effect of snow that has fallen on the rocky side of the mountain. Here is an example of where I've gone back over the lighter values of Payne's grey with some darker values of the Payne's grey. This will add the illusion of depth to those rocks as well, because you'll have that light undertone around the edges and you're not completely filling every little dot that you've already painted. While painting this mountain scene, always try to take into consideration distance. So these cliff faces that are closer to you, the colours are going to be a stronger, darker colour than those in the far distance of the scene. Now we're going to use a mix of ultramarine and Payne's grey to create the illusion of shadows down the left side of the rocky face of the mountain. Remember when applying this colour to leave some white space between some of the strokes. This will give the illusion of light reflecting off the snow. On this side of the mountain to the right, you can start adding some rocks to the tips and just around the edges, just to add some interest to the areas. We also want to start to add some other rocks scattered around the snowier side of the mountain, and these are just rocks poking out the surface of the snow, just to put them randomly around the painting. Add some down the edges of the cliff face at the top. The mix of Payne's grey that you will want to use on the rocks on the snowy side of the mountain is a nice thick mix, almost dry mix of Payne's grey, so very little water used at this point. When you're adding rocks to the snowy side of the mountain, again think about the distance on the scene. So rocks that are further away are obviously going to be smaller and more dot-like than the rocks that are more up close. They're going to be larger with a bit more detail. What you can also do, what I tend to do, is on the rocks that I've put down already, I will go around the bases of those rocks and add some teeny little dots as though there's some stones lying around. As mentioned earlier, now we're going to go back over the left side of the mountain where the paint has softened when we added the shadows, and just add a few darker tones of the Payne's grey to add a bit more depth to it. You can of course use other colours for the rocks, you don't just have to use Payne's grey, but for the purpose of this video I use Payne's grey just to keep things simple, as the video is more about showing the techniques that I use to create my mountains. Now, using a very light mix of lamp black, we're just going to add some shadows to the rocks that are poking out of the snow on the right hand side of the mountain. Make sure that all the shadows are pointing the same direction so that it looks more realistic of where the sun is shining from. Next, using the same light value mix of lamp black, we're going to add some footprint impressions in the snow, as though there's a pathway leading up to the peak. Remember again that the footprints closest to you at the bottom of the painting are going to be larger than the footprints in the distance. Finally, we're going to add some paint to the mountains in the distance, and for this you want to make sure that the colour is a lightish shade of blue. So with this one I used a light mix of ultramarine and Payne's grey. What you'll find in that naturally in nature is that things in the distance will look a more hazy light blue than things that are closer to you. Using a pale mix of Payne's grey, just add some very light dots of the colour on the distant mountains just to give the illusion of rock faces. When you're happy with your painting, all you have to do then is sign it and remove the tape from around the edges. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope that you've learnt something that you can take away with you and implement into your own paintings from it. If you enjoyed it, that's the main thing, then please subscribe to my channel and like this video, and if you have any questions, ask them in the comments below and I'll be more than happy to answer for you.